Okay, what's up guys? Today I'm going to take take the cylinder off of the new engine I got. This is supposedly a real yd100. Yeah, it might be a knockoff. We'll see what kind of rod it's got in it. I'm going to take some measurements of the exhaust and intake ports and grind away some of the sides and lower the intake about a ½ millimeter. I've heard of some guys going up to 2 millimeters. I don't know that I'd go that deep, but usually what I do is I take a ½ millimeter off each side, lower the intake about a ½ millimeter, and on the exhaust I'll do the ½ millimeter on each side and raise the roof on the exhaust port a ½ millimeter. I want to go a little bit higher with this exhaust port and a little bit wider, a little deeper on the intake this time. Not up 2 millimeters like I've heard that people do, but for me this is going to be kind of an aggressive port because I like to get as much as I can out of this, as much power as I can out of this little engine as I can. So I'll go ahead and get rid of this exhaust gasket and take some measurements. Okay, again 24.4 on the outside width of the exhaust port. And on the intake side, getting right at 25 millimeters wide. Inside from top to bottom on the intake, 14.5. And on the exhaust, getting right at 22.4. Now we'll take the cylinder off and see what we got. First though, I want to remove this clutch gear cover, or the drive gear cover, and I want to take it down the bottom dead center. This is the first one I've had that had a actual nut on the back side of this. And I heard it just fall off. Yeah, there it is. This nut was on the back side of the case. That tells me this hole's probably been stripped out. Okay, see they did grease the grease on the bucking bar here. I'm not sure I got the right size. Nope. Okay. Got a 19 millimeter. I was thinking it was 18. It's been a little while since I took one of these apart. I'm going to take it. We'll watch the piston and watch it for it to go down to take it all the way up to top dead center, which is right there. And you can see, hang on, let me take this off. And we can see there's quite a bit of skirt overhang protruding into the intake hole. So I'm going to mark that with a Sharpie. I'm going to grind all that off so that that's completely open when the piston's all the way up. Now I want to turn around. I'll take it to bottom dead center. Oh yeah. There's quite a bit of you can see there's a full ring sticking out through the exhaust port when it's at bottom dead center. So I'm going to definitely raise the top of the exhaust port to help the gases escape, and I'll probably ramp that piston just a little bit to give it even more room to expel the gases. So we'll go ahead and mark that so where the edges of the intake port is on the piston, and that way I can ramp it a little bit. Now I marked the edges of the port on the piston so I can grind it at an angle, get some more clearance for the exhaust. Now I'm going to take the cylinder off. Never had one that tight. Go ahead and take it up to top dead center, and it does have the yd100 crank in it. Okay, now I'm no guru on these motorized bike engines, but I have been working with them for a few years, and what I do is the lightly porting is what I consider. I wish I had a light so you can see down in the cylinders. There we have our exhaust port. And the intake port. Doesn't look too bad. I don't know how well you guys can see down in that. The transfer, I can get my light to shine right. You can't see it. The transfers though actually have like a little lip in there. So I'm going to grind that out too. And they are beveled edge to the intake side where it won't shoot straight out the exhaust port. But yeah, there's a lip on the inside of both of those, so I'm going to get rid of those. Starting on the intake side. The edges of the intake, I'm trying to bevel them out away from a little bit on the side. That opened that intake port quite a bit. So I've widened it a full millimeter. It was 25 even. I'm going to go a little deeper on the interior. 15.3. It was at 14.5. So I'm going to go just a little bit more on the floor of the intake. $15.9. So we went over a little bit more than a millimeter, lowered the floor on the intake about a millimeter, and widened it a millimeter. Let me get my light to show you what it looks like now. Oops. And that's my new intake port. Can't really see too well. That should help a little bit anyways. I'm going to hit it with some fine grit sandpaper on the edges to make sure I don't get no ring snag on it. Now I'm going to start on the exhaust. So it took off just about 24.4. Now we've taken off about a 1/2 millimeter on the exhaust width. And raised the roof about 0.6, so just a little bit over a millimeter or a 1/2 millimeter on the roof. I want to go a little, give it a little bit more on this. Try to get that inner edge of the exhaust flat. Give this a rinse real quick. Exhaust port ground at the top off about 100 or about a 0.5 of a millimeter. Got a little lip in there, little groove. I'm going to take some fine grit sandpaper and try to smooth that out as best I can. Exhaust ports need to be smooth so that the gases flow without any kind of restrictions. And there's my new intake port. Looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit wider on one side than the other. I think I might just grind off a little bit more of this on that side. We'll call that one good. Okay. Now, here's where I ramp my piston toward the exhaust to give a, just about a 1/2 millimeter clearance as far as the freaking exhaust gas goes, because this thing's sticking up a full ring past into the exhaust port. And there's my skirted piston to help clear the intake port when it's at top dead center. So, I'm hoping all this helps. I know it'll help some, but one little thing I want to add here is when I put these back together, I don't do it dry. I put just a little bit of my royal purple high performance two cycle wool. A little dab on the old finger. And I'll coat the piston ring with it, as well as the inside of the cylinder. And I'll also put regular nuts on top of these. And I'll put the acorn knots on just for decoration. Let's put our 19mm back on. And that's right at the top dead center. Oh, it's still got some protrusion going on. Yeah, I didn't grind over far enough or up far enough. My markings came off. There was oil on the inside of the cylinder, so we'll get her on the bike and see how she runs. So thanks for hanging out with me today, guys, and watching this little video about my porting techniques. You know, I don't get too far into it as far as degree wheels and stuff like that goes, but I guess that would be the proper way to do it, but it works fine for me. So appreciate everybody watching, and we'll be back soon to put this back on the bike.